What's going on, everybody? Quancredible here to bring you the review for Eden Zero Chapter 124. Now, if you didn't see my last video on Eden Zero, apologies if you're seeing this one and you've seen the last one or didn't, or vice versa. Actually, that was kind of confusing. Basically, I missed the chapter last week and did like a theory video later on in the week. And, to no one's surprise, obviously this chapter was primarily about Elsie and Justice, but that's what that video was about. And of course, I didn't have the exact theory down, but I was in the general range, so not too mad at myself for that. But for this chapter, I have my own thoughts about it. I know some people. This is gonna be one of those polarizing chapters. I can already tell. There's definitely some moments in here that I really did not care for. Hype fight chapter, but at the same time, I'll save my rant for that for later on. But yeah, with the beginning, we got an amazing cover page with Rebecca, Mashima always going extra hard on these cover pages. But anyway, the chapter is primarily Elsie and Justice's fight. We get loads of context, and we get to see, we don't really get to see a lot of variety of abilities from them, but we do get to see what they can do. So one of the most notable things after their dialogue is after they transform and get a similar, it looks like a sword, it looks like they have the same kind of like energy sword or whatever, and they clash, and it literally shakes the entire forest, or maybe not the entire forest, because I want to say that a forest is all forest, but it shakes the entire surrounding area. And even Justice's men can see just a beam of energy or light shoot straight up into the sky just from their clash. So it definitely, these guys, Justice and freaking Elsie were way above Shiki. It's not, Shiki's not even on the same tier. They might even actually be there might be a tier in between them actually. It might be Shiki, a whole separate tier, and then Injustice and Elsie. Now going in Hyoga, we're basically sent by Elsie to get back Homura, and and they're gonna end up doing battle against Creed and Victory. Now I highly doubt we're gonna get super in depth on this fight. Granted, it would be cool to see Goen and Victory really go at it, 'cause I feel like that would be a really hype fight. But I highly doubt we're gonna get to see more of that in the future, since these are super side characters, unfortunately. One thing I will say about them before moving on is I do think that it is interesting, or not at least interesting, but it's kind of a cool feat to see that that Elsie's her princess guard Goen and Hyoga are up to par with the right hand men of Justice, because they definitely counter each other, with Goen matching strength with Victory, as well as Hyoga being able to block Creed's ether gear. Creed then makes a really interesting statement saying that they don't even really know who Elsie is, and then that takes us back over to Justice and Elsie. However, I don't really think that Elsie's crew really cares or needs to know who she is, or needs to know about her past, because obviously Elsie and her crew on the Skull Fair and all that are very reminiscent, or basically a direct callback to Fairy Tail. And one of the whole big things on Fairy Tail is your past doesn't really matter, as long as you're part of the family, that's all that really matters. So even I feel like even if Goen, Hyoga, the rest of the crew, they found out Elsie's true story or true background, I doubt they'd even care all like that, seeing as that's kind of what their whole thing is about. But moving back over to the fight, we get this odd, it's funny because Elsie reveals Justice's true name to be James Holloway, and it's funny because I wasn't expecting his name to be James. I just literally thought his name was Justice. I just really did. But during the midst of their crazy fight, we do get to see this moment between the two of them when they were younger, and find out that they were actually betrothed to each other. So they were supposed to marry each other when they grew up. And younger Justice or younger James basically says, this is basically Elsie's kingdom absorbing his kingdom. So this was a very political marriage. These are two, I had no idea both of them were going to be this important in terms of their intertwined backstory. But yeah, we definitely we find all this out, and it's probably really safe to assume that this is why their ether gears are connected, as to say this, whatever kingdoms they're from, it's probably a passed down kind of thing, where okay, the next predecessor of this kingdom, for Prince James or Princess Elsie has to learn this ether gear in order to like, move on. So they've probably been trained in it for, since they were children, or like obviously since they were children, which would explain, the matching ether gear in my personal opinion. So at the end of the flashback leading back into like the actual present fight that is still going on, which like by the way, their fight is absolutely insane. Like that, like the level of this fight is just crazy. But it's I just really hated it because at the end of their flashback, Elsie kind of picks fun at Justice for like wanting to kiss him or whatever, but not actually going through with it. And then in the present day fight, it kind of calls back to that, where like Elsie mentions, maybe finishing what we started and seeing if it'll engender any feelings. So basically, trying to poke fun at him in the midst of a fight, saying, maybe we should actually finish what we were going to do when we were kids. And maybe that might, spark something up. And Justice is like, it's not going to change anything. And then he kisses her anyway, but at the same time, they both stab each other. And I hated this scene so much. Oh my gosh, this scene was so terrible in my opinion. Like I was feeling it all the way up until this part. I feel like it was just totally unnecessary. Like it was just because it like I'm not mad that there is a like romantic subplot around Justice and Elsie, because obviously it makes sense. The backstories are connected. They are a play on Jalal and like Urza, so obviously they're going to have some type of connected romantic backstory. But at the same time, I just feel like in the middle of this fight, it was just like misplaced. Like it was just like, really. And then using it like using it as a guise for both of them to try to stab each other, so they're both trying to like lull each other into a false sense of security to get off a stab. I would have rather them just have a really huge clash. I would have just rather them just have a really big clash, because it wasn't executed well for me. That's just me personally. If you liked it, cool for you, but for me, this was not it. This was not it for me at all. But basically from this, I really don't see them reaching a point of reconciling. Like I feel like they're probably going to be at each other the entire time unless some more information gets brought forward about them. So I'm pretty sure these two may actually be at like odds the entire series, and they might even actually kill each other by the end of the series. I wouldn't actually be mad at that if they actually did kill each other by the end of the series. Not the end of this fight, but just Eden Zero as a whole. So at the end of the chapter, we have Shiki like laying face down. He's beat himself up because, well, he is beat up, but he's beating himself up also emotionally because he's upset that he's not even on their level and he can't even do anything. And then we get this mysterious robot that pops out of nowhere telling him about how he hasn't reached the full depths of the abyss for his gravity powers and all that. And my immediate thought of this robot is it immediately put the theory in my head that the Ziggy that is in control right now, like the actual Ziggy that's going around and doing stuff, that I don't think that's the real Ziggy. I actually, just now when I seen this, I believe that this mysterious robot is the real Ziggy. Like maybe like the actual real mind of Ziggy is in this robot, and I don't think he's gonna tell Shiki. And then whoever this one is going around is not the real one, maybe like a program or a virus or something along those lines. But I doubt it. It's like the real. That's just what I think personally. And then like the real Ziggy in this robot will help finish off Shiki's gravity ether training. Now that's just my opinion. For what we actually have, the actual facts of the chapter is just a mysterious robot who may or may not teach Shiki the understandings of his gravity ether. At the very least, for what I think is going to happen next, is I really feel like he's going to awaken something inside of Shiki, or maybe like give him some kind of information that will spark something in his head, and then Shiki might get a new ability to use in this exact moment that would serve to break up the fights between Justice and Elsie, as well as Elsie's group rescuing Homura and the other group with Creed and Victory. So that's kind of how I think this is going to happen. There's always still Rebecca out there who could potentially arrive on the scene to shake things up, but we're just gonna have to wait and see how that goes. No Weiss and Hermit this chapter, which makes sense because with all this information, you'd have to dedicate the entire thing to Justice and Elsie. So hopefully we get to see more of them, for the next chapter. We were supposed to be on break, so who knows? Maybe next week is the break week. I have no idea. It seems like the Eden Zero chapters are just coming out whenever at this point. So down below, let me know how you guys feel about the chapter. Let me know how you guys feel about the romantic subplot between Elsie and Justice. Let me know how you guys felt about the scene of them stabbing each other and kissing at the same time. Are you guys a fan of it or not a fan of it? Did you guys like how it was executed or not? Like I said, me personally, I wasn't feeling it, but I would love to hear how you guys feel about it. Also, I need to know you guys' opinions on this mysterious robot. Do you guys have your own theories on who this mysterious robot could be, or how do you guys feel about mine? Just curious about your thoughts overall. As for my rating, like I said, I didn't care for it, so I'm gonna give the chapter like a 7 because there was still some hype fighting and some good info. Maybe a 7.5, 7.5, but it could have been higher. It could have been higher for sure, but that's basically how I feel about it. Outside of that, leave a like on the video as well as sub to the channel for more Eden Zero content. Also, I'm getting really close to reaching 1,200 subs, so if you guys want to help me out, that would be greatly appreciated if we could hit that by the end of the year. So other than that, I have nothing else for you guys, so I'll catch you in my next video.